Hi, this is James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to look at Tiny Epic Kingdoms. This is a 2 to 5 player game published by Gamelin Games. In this game, it's going to be a 4X style game where you're going to expand, explore, exploit, and exterminate your opponent. Let's go ahead down to the table here. I'll give you a really general overview of how to play the game, and then we'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts. Alright, so this is what a 4-player setup of Tiny Epic Kingdoms will look like. Now there's also a 2-player option. You have to have a special setup for the 2-player option. You're basically going to have like a dummy region, which is going to have one meeple of an unused color covering and everything, and the 5 players has special rules, but we're going to go ahead and just show a 4-player game. In a 4-player game, you're going to place out this action board and all your shields off to the left. Then you're going to have randomly hand each player one of these mats, and they're going to pick which side they want to use. A couple things on these is you can never be in this crag-like region or this mountainous-like region, and you can't be in this water region. So these are impassable, so you'll take this into consideration when you place out your map. The other thing you're going to do is you'll get 2 of these little characters here, and you will pick which one you want to have. They all start out the same, but you can learn these different magics in here. They give you different abilities during the game for the different factions, so those are really cool. You'll place this out. You'll place your little scroll marker because you might be developing your technologies or basically for your civilization as you continue throughout the game. And then you'll also pick 6 resources. Now the game recommends that you start with 3 food, 2 mana, and one of these, whether clay or brick or whatever, but one of those. As you play through the game, you can switch it around a little bit, but that's it. You will also place 2 of your meeples into one of the territories. And one of the things to remember in this game is you can never have more than 2 meeples, and you can never have less than 1 meeple on the board. What you're going to do throughout the game is everyone's going to take turns picking one of these actions that hasn't been picked yet and performing them. The game will end in a couple different ways. The game will end when someone has placed out their last meeple, when someone has got to the top of the tower track, or someone has researched all the way to the top of their powers. Once that happens, even if it gets knocked back down, the game will end. Everyone will have a chance to finish all the available actions. So whatever actions will finish up and the game will end, and the person with the most points wins. How you're going to get points in the game is you're going to get points for all the different regions you have your meeple in standing up. So you'll never get points for these wild regions. You will get points if there's no little castle region on here, but some of them have little castles on here. You can get 2 points for having one of those. You're going to get points for every thing you went up this track here, and you'll also get the points listed to the right where you're at on this track. Now the actions are pretty simple in the game. Here you can patrol, and if you patrol you can move in your own region. So you can move like here, or I can move him here, and you can have 2 of them together. Now when someone so if a player picks this action, the other players get to do the same action. If they choose not to do the same action and they're not the active player can't do this, you can gain resources for every place that you're on. So since I'm on these 2 places, I would gain my one grain, and I would gain 1 stone, clay, whatever the heck this is. And that would be it. So there's 2 things you can do. This next action is quest, and questing allows you to go to different regions. And when you go to different regions, you can go to anywhere on the outer edge that is not water or these crags. So I could move him here if I wanted to. If you move into a region with another player there, you'll actually battle. And we'll go over battling in a second, but just know that that's how you're going to potentially battle. The other thing you can do is you can build your fortification. If you build your fortification, it's going to cost the value on this left here. When you pay it, you move them down. Next, you can research. When you research, you'll just pay the mana cost on the left here, and you'll move your thing up, and now you have this ability that you can use for the rest of the game. So here would cost 1 mana. The other thing you can do is you can, I'm missing one of the gray shields. Oh no. You can get more people, so you can expand. And when you expand, what you're going to do is you're going to take the number of people you have out. So I have 2, and I want to put 1 more out. So I'd have to pay 3 grain to place another person in my area. And they'll have to go with one of the, so these would have to be separated. They would just go with one of the people, and then you can move them out later on. I am not sure currently where the other shield went, but the other thing you can do is you can trade. So when you trade, you can trade any one resource for any other resource. So I can move down my grain and move up my mana if I wanted to. So that's trading. Now, a couple things to finish this off, and this again is just an overview, is war. So in war, what you're going to do is each player is going to pick one of these dice, and they're going to pick how many resources they want to devote to this war. The person with the highest amount of resources they're devoting will win. Once you pick your resources, you have to spend them. So I can't spend grain, I'm sorry. It shows down here. So I could spend 1 of these clay things, and for every one I move down of mana, it's worth 2, and you can see that down here as a reminder. The other thing you can do is you can put a flag here. So if both players play a flag, there's peace, and you are now an ally. You don't fight for this area, you guys are fine. But if another one moves into another area, let's say here, another war begins and you get to pick again. At any one time, if someone doesn't pick peace and they pick war, and let's say this one doesn't, this picks peace, then not only is the battle resolved for this one, but it's also resolved for this. And what will end up happening is the player has to decide whether they want to spend the food equal to the number of meeples they have out and move it to an adjacent area to save it, or let it go, and they'll do that for each one. So I might return that to my supply because it's just too expensive. You can never be less than 1 character, so 1 character, and you don't pay, they still stay on the board. So you probably wouldn't want to pay your resources if you only had 1 meeple left. One region I didn't explain when you're gathering resources is here. If you go here and you lay down, which is what you would do if you explore that area, when you actually gain resources, you can pick one of any one you want. On later turns, when you do the patrol action, you can stand them up and then they can move on, but if you do get resources, they won't get anything. And like I said, this will actually continue until someone meets one of those 3 requirements. The game will end, and then the person with the highest points will win. And that's just a super brief overview. There's tons and tons of different factions to pick, so there's a lot of things to do in this game, and all these have different special abilities. There's just so many of them. So let's go back up to the table here, and I'll give you my final thoughts on this game. So I like this. Now, as a caveat, I haven't played the expansion yet, and I think the expansion would add a lot more to this game. The game itself is one of their earlier games. It is pretty simple to teach, pretty simple to play. You could pick this game up and play it really quick. There's not a lot to the different things you can do in the game. What really makes it is going to be those asymmetric player powers that you can develop throughout the game that give you different bonuses and advantages throughout the game. And the replayability comes from that too, with a giant stack of different factions that you can be throughout the game. Really add to the immersion in the game and the replayability. Now, if you're looking for like a full-blown 4X game, this is not it. This is really a light 4X adjacent style game. You have the idea of these things, so you have the idea of all the 4Xs explore. You have where you go into different areas. You're going to do exploit, where you're going to pull resources from the different areas that you have gained control. You're going to exterminate by trying to remove other players' meeples, and explore. You expand. You're going to go move to different areas and gain more area as you do the area control portion. So I guess, but really, if you're looking for a game that is very easy to teach, that's fun, that's an area control style game, this is going to be more like the game you're going to be looking for. And with the expansion, that gives more depth to the game and more, which I again haven't played yet, which just, if you're looking for more after you play this, you played a bunch and you're like, I would like a little bit more, there's support for it, so there's an expansion, so that's really good too. So like I said, if you're just looking for a fun, fast area control style game, where you can also sort of just build up those other things for points too, because that tower is a big thing too, but it's also getting into the area control, because area control will give you the resources. So that's my thoughts on this game. Thank you for watching.